Well, welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Running with the Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And my friends, oh my friends, we are in quite a perilous time indeed. Your New Jersey Devils are officially in trouble. They are officially in trouble. And wow, where do I even begin? So I will say I remained optimistic. Despite the recent struggles, the Devils were very competitive in most of those games, in close ones where we had some unfortunate breaks, whether it was, pucks bouncing off of linesmen and staying in the zone in the waning minutes of games, or it was, bad calls against us at inopportune times. Lots of things have been working against your New Jersey Devils in the past couple weeks. And despite being on a skid, they were able to capture quite a few loser points, largely in part to the outstanding goaltending of one Jacob Markstrom. Now, you all know how I feel about Marky. He has been the team MVP thus far on the season, has kept the Devils in games they otherwise would have been blown out in, quite frankly. And he's stolen a ton of points for the Devils as of late. Love Marky, can't say enough about him. He's been a brick wall back there for the Devils, and especially in the past month or so. Or really month and a half, almost 2 months. I mean, December was amazing. Great month for Marky. He was a third star of the month, the entire NHL, for his brilliant play. And it carried on in January. Obviously, the Kraken game, he had multiple save of the year candidates and was instrumental in the Devils getting that 3-2 victory. And now there's a lot of doomers here and people that have been negative after every loss, and I've been fighting them off, and it's getting tiring. Shout out to those of you on the front lines of battle with me. And, in the skid, while we were getting the loser points and being competitive, I was a little worried, but not yet quite concerned. I still remained optimistic that this club would right the ship, get back on track, and continue to play much closer to the way we saw the team before that dreaded Christmas break. Whatever happened on that Christmas break, we will never know. It was the complete unraveling of this club. I don't know what the hell happened, but whatever it was, we never came out of the break the same. And hopefully the upcoming Four Nations break will serve as a reset and these guys could get it back together. But like I said, slightly concerned, but not so much heading into the weekend. This past weekend, I said, okay, this is the time we're going to get back on track. We got to win these 2 games. Philly's in the basement of the league. Obviously, still not completely out of it. Plenty of hockey left for them to claw back into it. But on paper, a game you should win. We know the Devils have struggled with those types of games all season long. And then we were playing Sunday against the Senators, a team in a wild card spot that, again, is going to be playing hungry, looking to either stay in that wild card spot or improve to become one of the top 3 teams in the Atlantic Division. But either way, you knew they weren't going to be gimme games. There is no gimme games in this league. I say it over and over again. Teams are coming to win every single night, and any team on any given night in our beautiful league, the National Hockey League, the quote-unquote worst teams could beat the best teams on any given night. That is the parity that we see in the NHL today, and that's how it's been for quite some time, in my opinion. But now I think it's a little more than we've seen in the past, especially with how good some of these goalies are. A goalie alone, a hot goalie, could keep you in a game and win you a game. So I was very optimistic heading into the weekend. And I said, this is going to tell me a lot about this club. They were struggling mightily over the past few weeks heading into the weekend. Back-to-back games at the Rock. Let's see this team respond. Let's see this team break out of the funk. And what happened was, quite frankly, the exact opposite. It was the exact opposite. And after this weekend, I am officially in panic mode. I hate to say it, but if I'm being honest, I put a lot of stock into those games, and the way they all played out and the results being what they were, I'm officially in panic mode. We'll get to all the intricacies of that in a minute, but let's just start with the Philly game. 13 shots on goal for an entire game. I mean, 13 shots on goal is not going to get it done in this league on most nights. Now, you might get lucky once in a blue and somehow miraculously win with 13 shots on goal, but that is nowhere near enough to win consistently in this league, and we saw the team struggle mightily in that Flyers game. A game that, despite not being able to generate shots, the game was there for the taking, tied 1-1 going into the third. The game was there for the taking. Jesper Bratt scores a nice goal in the third. Unfortunately, it was offsides. It gets waved off the board. What would have been a Devils 2-1 lead remained a tied game, and the Flyers get the go-ahead. and add an empty net. Devils lose 3-1 to the Flyers. Again, 13 shots on goal, not nearly enough. The offense struggling, and it was a game that was there. You're there in the game. Third period tied. Who wants it more? The Philadelphia Flyers wanted it more and beat us on our home ice to start the weekend. And after the game, I was devastated. 13 shots on goal. The disallowed goal really hurts. And after that game, I was pretty low. And now I started to tell some of my buddies, like, now I am concerned. Because now not only is the slide continuing, but it's the fashion in which we lost. Only being able to generate 13 shots is inexcusable and, quite frankly, unacceptable. And I'm sure all the players and Sheldonkeefe, whoever, would all say the same thing. So after the game, I'm like, all right, can this team regroup? Coming back 24 hours later against the Senators with Markey back in net. Obviously, Jake Allen started the Flyers game. And my heart goes out to Jake Allen. He hasn't been able to register a win in a while during all of this. And he played more than good enough to get the win in that one. You know, Flyers only had 18 shots, but some of them were pretty high quality. But Allen only allowed 2. One of them being a breakaway to Michkov. So, you know, Jake Allen's struggles continue as the team struggles. We couldn't play well enough in front of him to get a win. You know, anytime you score 1 goal, you're asking your goalie essentially to pitch a shutout to get a win. You know, Jake Allen loses another one. That's unfortunate for him personally, as well as the team losing, obviously. And I'm like, we got to turn it around Sunday. We're coming against the Senators. Markey back in net. Maybe Markey could steal one for us. And it was, you know, more of the same, essentially. You know, and they looked better, obviously. They came out in the first period strong. 16 shots on goal in the first period. The Devils were just throwing rubber at the net from anywhere. And that's kind of what you want to see. When you're struggling, we hear it time and time again from the coaching staff and the players, we got to keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Generate shots. And the Devils came out and they were firing from everywhere. 16 shots on goal in the first period alone against the Senators on Sunday. Unfortunately, had nothing to show for it. A lot of them were, you know, routine saves for Forsberg that were just kind of point-blank shots. But you get a goalie moving around like that, and eventually you hope you get a nice tip, you get a clean look, maybe a deflection, a dirty goal, anything. Just throw pucks at net and see what happens. And that was the strategy for the Devils in the first period, registering 16 shots. And then as the second period began, you started to see the tide change a little bit in the Senators' favor. The Devils weren't generating as many shots. They weren't getting the same amount of chances. And as the game progressed, Ottawa looked to be taking over the game. Second period, I should also rewind for a second. The Devils had 16 shots in that first period, and Ottawa only had 2. It seemed like a total domination. And we're like, if the game continues like this, you know, mathematically, like something's going to have to give. The Devils are going to take a lead at some point and hopefully win this game. 16 shots to 2 in the first period is a wide margin. We outshot them 8-1. I mean, wow. When do you ever see that? Hardly ever. Second period was a different story. Ottawa gets 10 shots on goal, and the Devils only get 7. And in that second period, Ottawa took the 1-0 lead, and Tomas Tatar responded about a minute and a half later, tying the game at 1. Through 2 periods against the Senators, tied 1-1, almost a mirror image, you know, of the Flyers game the day before. Going into the third period, tied 1-1, the game there for the taking. And the Devils, in my opinion, put forward one of the weakest efforts in a crucial game in a third period that you know you need to win. I mean, obviously the team's been on a horrible skid for a few weeks now, but especially coming off of that brutal loss to the Flyers at home the next day, with the chance to at least get 2 of 4 points on the weekend, with 2 games on home ice. We come out for the third period, game tied at 1, and a little under 3 minutes in, they give Artem Zub his second goal of the season. I mean, his second goal of the season. We're getting scored on by guys that don't traditionally score, and everyone's breaking slumps against the Devils. I mean, Kenny Danico referred to it on the broadcast that guys that haven't been doing much find a way to get their groove back playing the Devils. It was no different for Zub. He gets his second of the season, gives Ottawa the 2-1 lead, and the Devils were not able to do anything. In what I would consider, hands down, easily, with everything involved, the period of the season. That third period against the Senators was the biggest period of the season thus far in a game we had to win. Had to win. The team has been struggling again for weeks. Lost the day before to the Flyers. At least we could get 2 of 4 points potentially during this back-to-back at the Rock. And the Devils come out for the third period and they generate 3 shots. 3 total shots in the biggest period of the season. I'm not going to lie. Watching it, I was absolutely disgusted. I was angry. I was upset. Not enough words to kind of describe the feelings that I was experiencing. But I did know that, watching a team that needed to play desperate, needed to bring the energy, needed to bring the pain, just went out there like it was any other period and generated 3 shots in the period of the season. Devils lose to the Senators 2-1 in what could have been a kind of turnaround weekend at home, quickly became the escalation of the issues, in my opinion. Like I said, I was starting to be worried a little bit about this club going into the weekend, but I expected them to have a big performance, in these 2 games and kind of start righting the ship. And instead, we dropped a peg below where we were. This is now I'm not going to say it's catastrophic, but we're damn near close, guys. I am officially hitting the panic button. The team is in trouble. The team is in trouble, and I don't know what the answer is. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to have all the answers and be a know-it-all. I'm not trying to be that at all. I'm just a fan who enjoys talking to all of you about this team that we all love so much. And, 2-6-3 in the last 11. Your New Jersey Devils are 2-6-3 in the last 11, which is 7 total points out of 22 possible points, which is a painful, dreadful, atrocious 318 points percentage. 2-6-3 in the last 11, and I'm not going to say the sky is falling, but it's very close. We are on the brink of me declaring the sky is falling, and I try to be, level-headed about this sort of thing. The Doomers were out weeks ago. I said, stay the course. Markey standing on his head. Eventually this group will get it right. They had just set the NHL record before the holiday break with 7 consecutive games. An NHL record. 7 consecutive games allowing 20 shots or less to the opponent. I mean, to think about that and think about where we are now, it is just the tale of 2 teams. We were flying high up here, and now we're down here. But 2-6-3 in the last 11 is brutal. It's absolutely brutal. There's no other way to slice it. 7 out of 22 points for 318. That is unforgivable. That is an unforgivable stretch of hockey, and something needs to change sooner than later. Now, the top 6 is struggling mightily, obviously. Sheldon Keefe, talked about this in the postgame, that when your best guys got to be your best guys. When your top guys aren't going, it affects the rest of the team, and obviously the team's going to kind of go as your best guys do. And our best guys have been struggling. I am a bit surprised after that Flyers game where we only scored 1 goal. I fully expected to see different line combinations for the game on Sunday against the Senators. And lo and behold, when the game started, we saw the same exact line combinations. It was a bit shocking to me. It was a little frustrating just because, a lot of people have been speculating about different combinations and things for a while now, given that the offense has been struggling. We haven't scored more than 3 goals since December 27th, that 4-2 win over the Hurricanes. And 3 weeks to score more than 3 goals. I mean, it's kind of a lot. Again, the offense just struggling top to bottom. And I expected to see some different kind of tinkerings with the combos. I think there are tons of combinations you could try. For a few weeks now, I've said I would like to see either Paul Cotter or Stefan Nason on a line with Jack Hughes. I think that could bring a interesting dynamic to the lineup. I think it's worth testing one or both of those possibilities. But as it stands right now, I can say that right now the team is broken, and these line combinations are not getting it done. 2 games this weekend at the Rock where we generated 1 goal in each of the games. I think it's, pretty obvious that something's got to give, and the easiest thing to do in a situation like this with your immediate personnel outside of making trades, and I'll get to that in a minute, is to shuffle the lines up and try something else. Again, I think trying Nason or Cotter on a wing with Jack could be interesting. A lot of people have said, maybe try Timo with Jack. I don't know if that's going to work. It's been tried, multiple times in the past with varying results. But the reality is the lines as they are, or as they were in that Senators game, not getting it done. It's time to try something else. I fully hope that before Wednesday's game against the Bruins on Jacques Lemaire Ring of Honor night, we are going to have Jacques Lemaire, one of the integral figures in the history of this franchise, who helped turn it around, made us a winner for the first time, coached that team to the 1995 Stanley Cup Championship, which kind of set the blueprint for the dynasty years to follow. And he is going to be in the building, along with some other hockey dignitaries, for the game Wednesday when he gets inducted into the Ring of Honor. I believe Claude Lemieux will be in the building. Hall of Famers, obviously, the great Martin Brodeur, Scott Niedermeyer, Scott Stevens, former head coach and Hall of Famer Larry Robinson. We are going to have dignitaries in the building at the Rock Wednesday night for Jacques' big night. And I fully hope we see different lines, because it's clear to me that these lines, for whatever reason, at the moment and for the past few weeks, have not been able to generate offense whatsoever. Obviously, the bottom six is now struggling as a result, and it's kind of a snowball effect. When it rains, it pours. It's pouring right now. Like I said, I am hitting the panic button because something's got to give. I think the first and easiest potential solution is trying out new lines and seeing what comes of it. They cannot do any worse than what we've seen in the past couple games. Well, I guess, hypothetically they could do worse. They could get shut out. But I mean, what are the odds of that? Back-to-back games with one goal, not acceptable, not getting it done. Time to try new lines. There's endless amounts of possibilities. I don't particularly care exactly what they are, but try something else, whether that's, Timo with Jack or, like I said, Nason Cotter. There's a bunch of combinations you could try. And it's worth doing because at this point, one goal for the past two games, time to try new lines. And then obviously the bigger issue is, will general manager Tom Fitzgerald bring in outside help? Now, a lot of us have wanted to see some tinkerings from a few weeks back. I wasn't as worried about it because I believed while the team, even in a little struggle, I thought they would start playing better and Fitzy would look to bolster this lineup for the playoffs closer to the deadline. But the reality is we are now about 6 weeks away from the NHL trade deadline, and my biggest fear is that if nothing is done beforehand and very soon, that we could easily play our way into becoming sellers at the deadline. It's something that at Christmas, had you told me the Devils will be sellers at the deadline, I would have laughed at you. I would have laughed in your face. We were flying high, one of the best teams in the league. Everything was coming together. It looked like this team was a true contender. And as it stands today on January 20th, without any changes, I would be lying to you if I said I thought this team was a true contender. I don't think true contenders, while they go through struggles, 2-6-3 is very troubling. Furthermore, the biggest thing for me is the fashion in which they lost these last two games at home. Only scoring one goal in each of them, looking fairly lifeless for long stretches of the game. And again, in that Senators game, with the loss the day before, only generating 3 shots in the third period of a tie game in a game you desperately need to win. I'm not seeing the tenacity. I'm not seeing the will to win. It just seems like these guys have now almost become accustomed to losing to some extent, which is, something you don't want to see. A lot of people are getting PTSD from last season, and I do believe that this roster and this team is much better than last season. Now, their record at the moment wouldn't reflect them being much better than last season because, quite frankly, the nice cushion that we had built up in November and December is quickly evaporating, and it is very troublesome. I do think that something needs to be done sooner than later because being sellers at the deadline I don't even know what that would do to my mental psyche, guys. You guys know I'm a huge Devils fan. I love the Devils. I obviously have a Devils channel. I live, breathe, and die with this team like many of you. If you're watching my videos, you are most likely some level of a hardcore fan, and you want nothing more than this team to win, just like I do. And as of late, it's been very discouraging to be a Devils fan. I mean, that is the blunt, honest truth of it. And while I still do believe in this team, I do believe they will make the playoffs, but I cannot, with a straight face, tell you that I am certain of that the way I would have told you, even on Christmas Day. I would have told you the Devils are 100% going to the playoffs because at that juncture, it would have taken a pretty bad, long slide for us to even be worried about making the playoffs. It was a question of, can they win the division? Where will they finish in the top 3 of the division? But now, with this elongated stretch of bad play, 2-6-3 in the last 11, it's time to worry. And I am super worried. The lead we built up is gone. Teams are nipping at our heels. We see a lot of teams looking to fight and claw into a wild card spot, continuing to play well. Columbus has came on out of nowhere. The Rangers have been playing pretty well. And if this slide continues, we may very well be looking to claw our way into the playoffs with a wild card berth. Or even worse, miss the playoffs. Now, again, as of today, I still believe this is a playoff team. I still believe in the group. But the bleeding has to stop, and we've been bleeding bad. I think it starts with some line changes, hoping to get the best out of the group that we have, and hopefully Tom Fitzgerald brings in a couple guys, at least one guy, but preferably a couple, to round out the bottom 6 sooner than later. Because if this continues and we continue to struggle, again, teams are going to be catching up to us in the standings, and it could be a dogfight. I never thought I would just be satisfied with clawing and scraping into the playoffs at any point this season after the December stretch that we had that was beautiful. And here we are now that, in late January, now I'm just like, just get in the playoffs. Just get in the playoffs. Missing the playoffs cannot be an option. Absolutely should not even be on the table. It shouldn't even be a thought. Playoffs or bust for this group, especially given the strong start to the season we had. I criticized Tom Fitzgerald last season for not bringing in a goalie earlier. I thought we could have clawed into the playoffs had we had any sort of competent NHL goaltending. We obviously struggled all season long. Yes, the defense was Swiss cheese on many nights, but the goaltenders were not doing us any favors or stealing games. And we're seeing right now, even in these games we're losing, they're right there for the taking, most of them. And it's because of pretty damn good defense and strong goaltending play from Jacob Markstrom and on some nights Jake Allen. To me, the problem is the offense. The offense is not doing anything. And in a lot of games, your best defense is a good offense. When the offense is firing on all cylinders, when we're putting pressure on the other teams, when we're getting sustained ozone time, with the offense firing, that takes a lot of pressure off your defense. When you're playing in the other team's end, your defense could just sit back and wait for their opportunities or, when the play develops, do what they can to break it up. But we haven't been able to have these, long shifts of domination in the ozone and really putting pressure on the other team. And as a result, the pressure is on us. The pressure is on our defense. And so I do think it could all come together and look more like what we were seeing in December when the offense gets firing again. But as of right now, it's very broke and it's not happening. Anything that you're looking to see has not been happening. We're not getting those long shifts in the ozone with sustained pressure. We see a little blip of it here and there, but by and large, it's not happening, and it's putting extra pressure on the defense and obviously the goaltending. I am hoping this all comes together soon. But, if we roll out the same lines on Wednesday night against the Bruins for Jacques' big night with hockey dignitaries in the building, I can't stress this enough. Hockey royalty is in the building. Jacques Lemaire, Larry Robinson, obviously the great Martin Brodeur, Scott Niedermayer, Scott Stevens, Claude Lemieux. Legends are going to be in the building, and do you want their lasting impression of the current New Jersey Devils to be a team that just has no heart, has no life, and can't generate offense? I'd hope not. I would hope that the team wants to put on a performance with all of these former franchise and NHL at large legends in attendance watching the game. Leave your mark on Jacques. Let him leave there and be like, that Hughes kid is really good. The Devils got a player in him. Or that guy Timo Meier, he is a bull. What a bull up front. What a throwback player. You want to leave a good impression on these guys when they're not going to probably see another Devils game live for quite a long time or possibly ever, depending on the situation. And so, special guests in the building. It should be an awesome ceremony for Jacques. Hopefully the team puts their best foot forward and we see a completely different team on the ice Wednesday night, because this stretch has been brutal, and my heart goes out to any fans that were in attendance for either one of these past weekend games or both. It was disgusting hockey. 3 shots in that third period against the Senators, just atrocious. It really just broke my heart. But I love this team. I will love this team till the day I die. I will always support the boys. I still believe in this group. Jacob Markstrom has given us a chance to win every night, even when the team struggles mightily. And hopefully Marky's back in there Wednesday on top of his game, giving the Devils another chance to win. And hopefully the team in front of him plays much better than the team we've seen for the past few weeks. It's a dark time right now. I am not going to sugarcoat it. It is a dark time. I am super worried, and I am hoping we see an improvement ASAP. Time is running out. We're about to be at game 50. As we get into February and March, obviously the ice shrinks, the games get more physical, goal scoring decreases, and it's harder to find opportunities and harder to find offense. And they need to figure it out, because we're going to be playing tons of teams in the East with something to play for, whether they're trying to win their division or improve their standing in the playoff race, claw and scrape their way into a wild card spot. Teams are going to be playing desperate, and we need to match and exceed their level of desperation, because we are now desperate. The cushion we built is gone. There's no more cushion, guys. It's do or die time now. From here on out, this group needs to embrace playing playoff hockey from now until the playoffs. They should go into every game like it is the playoffs. Take a cue from the Florida Panthers. They play a full 60-minute playoff grind-style game every single game, and that's why they are battle-tested. That's why they have the success that they've had in the past 2 seasons, making it to a cup final, and then finally getting to the cup final and winning last season. They're a battle-tested group. The New Jersey Devils must get back to that heavier, edgier, more violent game that we saw little glimpses of earlier on in the season. Got to embrace dump and chase. Got to dump pucks in, go chase it, and get to work. Work on the cycle, work along the boards. It's not easy. It's not pretty. It's not glamorous hockey, but this is how you win in the league. Got to start hitting guys more. We've gotten away from that. And I hope we see a resurrection. I don't know, what's going on in their heads now, what's going on, behind closed doors, with the coaching staff. But I obviously believe in the coaching staff. I do think Keefe has done a great job thus far, but I am starting to get a little bit worried with the lack of line changes given what we've seen over the past few weeks. And now, like I said, with back-to-back games, 1 goal, it's now time. Wednesday, if we do not see different line combinations, I will be very upset because, it's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. We've seen the script now. It's time to switch it up and see what these boys can do. But I will be here chanting, let's go Devils, till the day I die, guys. I love this team more than anything, and I'm trying to be somewhat optimistic while also being realistic about where we are at this current time. I mean, with this stretch, for you to keep saying, it's all fine, it's all going to fix itself, I mean, I think that would be a little bit delusional. And I pride myself on not being delusional. I try to be as fair and level-headed about all of this as I can, but we're at the point now, 2-6-3, that's not a small stretch of games. 11 games is damn near 15% of the season, and it's time to hit the panic button. Whatever that looks like from the organization's end, I hope that it's addressed. Like I said, line combinations, hopefully Fitzy's working the phones trying to figure who he could bring in. I'll probably do some videos in the next week or so about some of the names being thrown out for potential trades. There's a lot out there. I think a lot of it's nonsense, and I think, some of it's just downright ridiculous. I mean, anyone talking about Pettersson at $11.6 million bucks, I'll tell you this, spoiler alert, Pettersson is a hard no for me. Hard no. $11.6 million, no thank you. But there are some guys that I think could fit the team and make sense. I will make videos on them. I'll be making videos about a ton of stuff. I obviously have a ton of stuff in the works, as always. Some cool and exciting stuff I'm going to be bringing to you guys soon. But let me know what you thought about anything I said in the comments. I talked about a lot here. I probably forgot some stuff. There's a whole lot to discuss with this team. So anything, everything Devils hockey, throw it all out there in the comments. I enjoy talking to all of you, even during the dark times. And right now is a dark time, and back to the trade thing, a lot of people are like, we need a top 6 guy. We need a top 6 guy. Obviously, I would love to see a top 6 guy brought in. I do think our top 6, if I'm being honest, is less than ideal. We have 4 great top 6 players, in my opinion. Jackhughes, Jesper Bratt, Nicohischier, Timo Meier. And then you have Palat and Nason, which while I like these guys, the reality is on a lot of NHL teams, they're not going to be top 6 guys. And so they're being forced to play a role that maybe, is slightly outside of their wheelhouse. I mean, listen, they've filled in admirably. They've generated here and there, but ideally you would like those guys in your bottom 6. Those are 2 great bottom 6 players, but because of lack of offensive depth, they're in our top 6. And it's unfortunate. I think Fitzy tried with Tatar this past offseason, thought he could maybe recapture some of that magic from the 22-23 season. That didn't quite pan out. They thought maybe Dawson Mercer could be that top 6 guy. I mean, that didn't quite pan out. And so now we're at a crossroads. We have some guys playing in the top 6 that might be better suited for bottom 6 roles. Can Fitzy get a top 6 guy that won't break the bank in both assets to acquire them and our cap space going forward? And there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to figure out, but I am still unwavered in my commitment personally to believing that this team should be in win-now mode. The window opened in that 22-23 season when we set the franchise record with 112 points before beating the New York Rangers, our arch rivals, in that beautiful 7-game playoff series. For me, that's when the window opened. That's when our window truly opened. And now that we have Jacob Markstrom playing at a Vezina caliber, you got to sometimes push the chips in. I'm not saying to mortgage the whole future for win-now pieces, but sometimes you got to make those deals that sting in the moment. Got to give to get in this league. You're not going to be able to fleece teams on every deal. And while I do believe Fitzy has done a great job and pulled off some trades that were fleecings, they're not all going to be able to be that. And especially when you're talking trade deadline time, trying to bring in a top 6 guy or even a bottom 6 guy like Ryan O'Reilly, a lot of guys are talking about. I mean, he'd be a great third-line center for sure. But there's a lot more that goes to that. And again, I'll probably make a video on him and some other guys. But there are solutions out there, and it's Fitzy's job to navigate these waters to see who is going to help us on the ice, who is going to add to the leadership group potentially in the room, and who fits, the age of the core, how aggressive he's trying to win now. There's a lot of stuff that works. Again, I'll be making tons of videos on this in the upcoming weeks, but I firmly believe with Markey playing the way he is and with the guys we have and their ages, we have to be in win now mode. It's time to win now. My opinion hasn't changed on that matter given this last stretch of games, and I hope he operates in that manner. I talked a lot here. I probably forgot a bunch, but I'll be back with a bunch of stuff soon. Throw it all out there in the comments. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll be back soon. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.